Welcome to Unplanned Podnancy, the only podcast where we ask important questions like, what if tarantulas had toes? I'm Chris,
I'm Matt.
and today we're doing another hypothetical. Matt, why don't you explain to the people what we're doing?
Well, we were going to do something else, but now I want to talk about what if tarantulas had toes.
I mean, we can talk about that if you want. We can dive
Yeah,
into it.
I don't think we can fill up a whole podcast with that one. But today we're going to talk about a hypothetical situation that we just came up with that we wanted to talk about. And that situation is, what if you went to bed tonight and you woke up tomorrow in a world that suddenly had no corporations? Not like a different reality that's always been there, but just like every corporation you can think of just suddenly ceased to exist while you were asleep. And now we have to fill in the holes that they've left behind.
It's going to be devastating.
Uh-huh.
That's my initial thought. It would be absolutely devastating. And just so everyone's aware, we kind of touched on this a little bit when the idea came up, but we wanted to save the real impression of it. But some of the real initial observations were the loss of the internet would be
Yeah.
a big thing.
To me, immediately, that would be the biggest.
The biggest thing? Ooh, that's actually interesting. I think it would have the most initial impact, but within like a week, it wouldn't be the biggest thing.
Oh, it wouldn't be the biggest thing over time. It would be the biggest thing I would notice immediately.
Okay, yeah.
Is if the internet was just gone.
Well,
because
your power would be out too.
my power is not from a corporation.
Oh.
My power comes from like a local co-op.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
and some of it is solar and stuff. So I think the lights would probably stay on. For me, at least. For some people, the lights would stay on. But the internet would definitely disappear
Okay.
because my internet also goes through the same local co-op, but it wouldn't be able to connect to anything beyond that. So, because you would lose. I mean, basically, the entire internet now runs on CDNs, like content delivery networks. So, like, obviously, I mean, the obvious things are like Facebook's going to disappear,
Yep. Gone.
right? And all the CDNs that people use to like for like DDoS protection and stuff, even smaller websites, like that stuff's going to go away. So you wouldn't be able to connect to any of those smaller websites anymore. And then you're going to lose like Verizon and Comcast. The internet's going to stop working.
Yeah.
Like that's assured.
And just in case anyone is listening to this who isn't aware of what DDoS is, that's distributed denial of service.
It doesn't matter. The internet's going to stop working.
Yeah, I was like, where do I go from there? It doesn't matter. Yeah, the internet's going to stop working. That's
Yeah.
that's going to be terrible. But a lot of people will lose power, along with the loss of power. And this is the one that popped into my head was food distribution.
Oh yeah, because okay, so here's a question that I think we have to ask to really be able to assess the impact of this is like, so a corporation disappears, right? Does just the corporate entity disappear, or does everything that they own disappear? So, or does everything that they made disappear? So, like, say Honda
Whoa.
is gonna disappear, but does my car disappear?
I don't think so. I think the things that they have created, as long as they're a physical good, would still exist. Their intellectual property gone. I think probably any of their plants might just pop out of existence for the sake
Their
of
production.
yeah.
Yeah.
For the sake of the argument, that way you can't be like, well, we'll just make more. And I guess that's an important rule to lay down. This is now a universal law that
Yeah.
corporations cannot exist, and the things that corporations make, just if you try to do it again, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. So corporations are illegal. There are no more corporate entities, and any of their existing like production processes halt immediately.
Yeah.
So the things that have come out of it continue to exist, but anything that they actively have to exist to run disappear. So like the building that Walmart is the building still there and Walmart is just gone?
I guess the building can stay. What's it gonna hurt?
What
But
about the
no,
stuff that's inside of it?
no, it's gone.
It's gone.
It's
All the
gone.
so anything that is in stock, like in the system at Walmart
Yeah.
disappears.
Anything owned by Walmart is gone.
Oh, okay.
So
Oof.
anything Amazon owns is gone.
Oh, that's gonna be a lot of shit. That's a lot of shit. Well, I mean, suddenly you're gonna have a huge, huge problem with food and like everything because
Yeah.
there's so much stuff that we rely on that is currently owned by corporations that you wouldn't be able to get if that happened.
Oh yeah.
Because like most of America, at least food, is probably sitting in a corporate warehouse right now.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I would say if I had to guess, I would guess 85 to 90% of it.
I mean, there's still gonna be some at the local farmers market. There's
Yeah.
gonna be food in the fields. There's gonna be animals on the farms. Well, there's gonna
Not
be
all
animals
farms.
on some farms,
Yeah.
true, on, like, smaller farms, but, like, corporate farms,
Yeah.
all that's gonna disappear. Where
Mon-
everybody's just gonna die, Chris.
Monsanto, everything that Monsanto owns is gone.
Yeah, I kinda thought that this was gonna be sort of interesting, but then I just realized everyone's gonna die.
Well,
Not
not
everyone.
everyone, right? So you have the initial wave of the loss of internet, the loss of power, the inability to get new goods. That's going
Mhm,
to be a huge, huge struggle initially. And there are going to be people that start starving. And there are going to be people who can't uh, cope and deal. I mean, just water in general, right? Because
mhm,
now you can't get bottled water, you can't get a Brita filter, so everyone's going to have to use their local water source. That's going to put a strain on the system, assuming it's not owned by a corporation. And then
yeah,
after you get past that, now everyone has to rely on locally sourced foods. If you live in an area such as the Midwest, you're going to be in the lucky position that there's a lot of corn and beans grown in that area.
mhm,
There are smaller farms, so you probably will be able to get food. It might not be something you really want to eat,
yeah.
but you might be able to like there 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 might be enough corn in Indiana to feed the people in Indiana.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you're gonna lose some people who can't forage for their own food immediately. Like that's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
happen pretty quickly, unless there are enough people to take care of them. But most people are gonna be too busy trying not to starve to death themselves to take care of other people who can't forage for themselves. So you're gonna lose those people. You're also gonna lose a bunch of people who live in like remote locations who are like completely dependent on supply from somewhere else being flown in or something like that.
Mhm.
So the people there are probably gonna die. Like people in like real northern Canada or something, where in like small towns where they get like boat shipments and plane shipments and stuff. Those people are gonna die because they're
Well,
not gonna be able to. Well,
the people in those areas, and it's going to depend on the area, right? But in some of those northern areas, they have a lot of wilderness, and they you might be able to resort back to hunter gatherer and
yeah, but I
being
mean
squirrels.
that's fair. I mean, you can hunt some bears and stuff, but I doubt that there's enough of that there to like maintain the populations that live in those areas.
Okay.
And And there are some people that straight up just live in the middle of, like, a frozen area, and, like, their food literally just comes in
Yeah.
by plane or something,
That's
and
fair.
they may not even be able to, like, get out of the town that they live in, like, by foot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those people are screwed.
So
Um
I guess the upside in this is the amount of land that is available to farm and grow
mhm.
food on does not decrease. The entities that are farming that now don't exist, but that doesn't mean new entities can't take over and start working on that land. It would have to be individuals, and the food distribution is going to be a whole different thing. But now America is growing food for America, China is growing food for China, like you would have before the Industrial Revolution and
I
the
mean,
distribution
yeah,
of goods.
but you can't just shit corn out of the ground overnight,
No, you
like,
can't.
and a lot of farms are owned by corporations and stuff too, so lots of really big cornfields and stuff are gonna disappear, so that's gonna be rough.
So you're going to lose a portion of the population to starvation.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. At
So
least in, like, most developed nations.
yeah,
There are plenty of people who live in other places in the world who this is just their daily life, right? Like, they
yeah.
just so those people will be fine. A lot of those people may not even know anything happened. Uh,
Other than like aid not coming in anymore.
yeah,
If
yeah,
the country
people
receives aid.
yeah, that'll suck for some people for sure. Um, yeah. We're just it's gonna be a culling of a significant amount of the population,
Mm-hmm.
first of all.
Yep.
And then the people that are left are gonna what's gonna happen? They're gonna start standing up small businesses to take the place of the larger
Yeah.
entities, right?
So what percentage of the population do you think v- would vanish? And we can talk globally or we can talk about a country because like you said there's some populations that aren't going to be affected. There are third world countries that probably aren't going to lose a significant amount of people as opposed to places like America which might or
Yeah,
North America, the USA.
I think America is gonna lose like 50 to 75% of its population, honestly. I think it's gonna be a
75.
lot of people
Wow.
because if you think about like people in rural America will probably be okay for the most part, except for the people who can't forage for themselves or have some sort of like actual health, like physical dependency on some sort of service that they
Mhm.
can't get anymore.
Ooh.
Uh, but you're also going to lose like a significant portion of America's population is in large cities, right?
Yep.
Like there's millions and millions and millions of people who live in New York or LA, and I don't think most of those people will be able to make it because
Yeah.
they have to go somewhere else because you can't just start if all the food that's in every 7-Eleven or whatever in Manhattan disappears when this happens, those people are fucked, man.
Yeah,
Like
damn, dude. And it just kind of dawned on me when you were talking about disabilities. With the loss of corporations, we lose all major medical uh, corporations. Pfizer's gone. Johnson is gone. Like we're losing a lot of people who make important drugs that some people
right.
depend on to live day to day.
Yeah, they're like there are people that have to wake up in the morning and take their thyroid medication or they die.
Yeah.
And so those people are on borrowed time because they only have there only exists as much medication as was purchased before this happened
Yep.
that isn't owned by a corporate entity.
So
And so those people's time is borrowed.
yeah. If for example, if you take thyroid medication, your alternative to and I know this because there's a member of my family who has a thyroid condition. The alternative, if all that stuff disappeared, would be to find pigs and eat their thyroid. And
Whoa.
you can get the needed chemicals for thyroid production by eating a pig's thyroid.
Like a
Um,
thyroid vampire.
yeah. Um, so that would be the alternative. And again, it would be the people in the Midwest who would have the most access to that.
Yeah. Well, there aren't enough pigs for as many people as need that though,
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
sure.
know how many people have thyroid conditions,
Yeah.
but you're probably right.
How
There.
long will one pig thyroid last you? Because if you have to eat a thyroid a day,
Oh, I don't know. That I don't know. You know, it might be like a portion of a thyroid. I don't know. You know, the pigs are going to get slaughtered regardless
mhm,
because now we need their bacon and we need all of them for food. So the thyroid is going to exist. So there will be a portion of the people that have thyroid conditions that will be able to survive. But the large majority in a lot of places are going to be dead. People that need medication for like HIV,
yeah,
their HIV is going to develop into AIDS because it's not
insulin,
being controlled. Insulin conditions are going to boop.
yeah,
Bye bye.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you can. there will be people who will be able to figure out insulin on their own, but not as many people who have diabetes for sure.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, I think it's at least 50% of America's
Okay.
population will be
Yeah.
good.
I think
Um,
I think 50 to 75 was a good call. I think 50 is definitely on the reasonable side. It might not be on the realistic side, but I think it's reasonable. Um, yeah, so somewhere in there. So let's say at least 50% of the population
yeah.
the United States is gone, and we're probably looking at a similar number for China, Australia,
I would think it would
Japan.
be lower in China. Well, I don't know, because China is like the same thing, right? They have a really large population, but a lot of those people live in gigantic cities.
Yeah,
So
they're densely
a lot of
packed.
those, yeah. Because I mean, there are tons of people who live in rural China or whatever who are going to be just fine.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess by population density, you're gonna lose most of the people in large cities,
Yeah,
like in very urban areas, I think.
yeah.
So
A lot of the English speaking countries in Europe are going to be are going to have large impacts like that. England, well,
English speaking? Why just English? Does English have some bearing on your
well,
survival?
no,
People
well,
in Germany are gonna be fine.
I was going one by one through my head, and then I was like English speaking, and I was like Scotland and Ireland. I was like they don't necessarily speak English. Um, yeah, I think they would actually be better suited than England would. I think France has a good deal of farmland, so they probably wouldn't have as large of an impact as England would. I don't know much about Germany.
I mean,
It's
Germany has a
interesting.
lot of farms, right? I don't know how much of the UK's food is, like, shipped in from
I
other
don't either.
places in Europe. I have no idea.
Um,
But
but I think a safe guesstimation globally would
mhm.
probably be at least 50%.
50% of the world population. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair because like the people who are in countries where corporations aren't so much a part of daily life, those countries have smaller populations, right?
Yeah,
So because if you lose a significant chunk of the population in America, China, India, and some larger European countries, right there, you're gonna lose like 50% of the world's population.
yeah.
So
Okay, so we've lost a lot of medication production. We've lost a lot of food distribution, a lot of food production. The internet is gone. The way that a lot of people manage sewer and power has been disrupted.
mm,
Um, we get through that. Half the world population is gone, which some people would see as a positive.
I mean, it's definitely gonna stop climate change, right?
Yes, it's gonna
So
have
that's fair.
no new cars, no new planes, at
Yeah.
least for a period of time.
Eventually, the cars that we do have and the planes that we do have are going to stop running because we're going to run through all the oil that wasn't owned by a corporate entity, and you probably need corporations to get more oil because like all the oil rigs and stuff are you can't just take some people, just like some random people, and just throw them on that oil rig and be like, all right, make it work. Like you need the corporations who like send the ships out to get the barrels and like bring it back and process the crude
Oh
oil and all
Lord.
that crap. So there's probably just never going to be we may be able to set up a system of small businesses that would be able to do it eventually, but it's going to be a very long time.
Yeah, I think we would just decide to move beyond oil and start working
Yeah.
on something else. But that gets okay. So we're a period of time in the future after corporations have vanished. Half the world population is gone. We're not getting any new vehicles. We're not using oil anymore, really. Now we're rebuilding, and everything's
Mm.
small business driven. What does the world look like at this point? From now that people have a sustainable amount of food, what's life like?
Well, transportation isn't as much of a commodity, right? Because like today we live in a world where you can just go out and get in your car and you can drive across the country if you want to. But we already covered the oil problem. But then the other thing is like well, I guess, yeah, mostly it's the oil problem. But if if the cars start breaking down and stuff, you have small mechanics that can fix them. But we're gonna have to come up with some sort of new system of transportation, right? And if that's like electric vehicles, somebody might be able to build an electric vehicle out of like electric motors or something that they built in their garage, but they're gonna be really expensive and hard to get. Because the only way that we were ever able to become like a motorized society was because of the assembly line and like large corporations making cars cheaper for people.
Yeah, if Ford can't make the Model T and own the Ford Corporation,
Mhm.
how we don't get the gasoline powered car,
Mhm.
and without corporations, are we really going to get electric cars?
We're gonna get electric cars, but we're not gonna get mass produced electric cars.
Yeah.
So
What about train systems?
okay, so now I'm trying to I'm thinking of like what is a corporation, because we're talking about you can't get mass produced electric vehicles, but what if a bunch of small businesses just agree to start making the same car? Like one person comes up with an idea, and then like a bunch of small businesses that have like 15 people working for them just start making these cars.
Hmm.
Is it a corporation when it becomes cooperative?
I mean, if they're not competing against each other in the market, then I think they're just a corporation in different buildings.
So you can't, yeah. So you can't have more than like, let's say, 20 people working on the same product.
I mean, realistically, I guess any number of people can be working on the same product as long. Well, damn, that it's kind of hard to define like that. Yeah, I guess there is probably an upper limit for something to be a small business, right?
Like there seems like whatever rule is here in place trying to prevent corporations from reestablishing themselves could be skirted somehow.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, let's say that for a corporation to not exist, there has to be some kind of control on like the level of production, I would think. Once your
Yeah.
production level becomes too high, you're now a corporation.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some sort of like alien or like omnipotent presence that's like controlling production numbers and like numbers of people collaborating on the same thing for some reason,
Yeah, for
for some
some reason.
unknown reason,
Yeah.
because corporations are the devil or something. I don't know. Okay. So back to your question, trains.
Yeah.
Can you operate a train system without a large group of cooperating people like that?
So you can put a train on a track, get some coal, and make it go, right?
Yeah.
That's gonna happen. You could do that. Well, you could do that as an individual if you really wanted to.
And we established if there's a train that isn't owned by a corporation when this happens, the train keeps existing.
Yes.
So
So if you have a privately owned train,
if you could be a museum,
yeah,
could be a train museum.
yeah, and you can get coal, which is able to
Would
be
be
dug up.
easier than getting oil for sure.
Yeah. Then you could get trains running. Now, keeping trains from running into each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be just chaos.
Yeah, that's
Like,
gonna be a whole situation. No, you know what? We didn't talk about the
they'll
phone.
all be late too.
We didn't talk about phones and communication in general, other than the internet,
Mhm.
because right now phones are ran by phone companies.
Yes.
Yeah.
They
You're not.
weren't always that way though, right?
No,
You could like
no.
you could phone somebody up with just like there only needed to be like one person with a switchboard in the middle.
Yeah. So
Um,
would the landline still run?
I don't know. Well, I mean, all the phone lines were owned by a corporation, probably most of them. So did those disappear? Did all of our infrastructure disappear when this happened?
Okay.
Roads didn't because roads
Roads
aren't
didn't.
privately owned, but the
Uh,
phone lines may have.
Well, I don't know if all the phone lines were put up by corporations though, but were they owned by corporations? I would
Probably.
think so. Yeah. So
Cell
now
phone
we
towers are, for sure.
yeah, and we have no cell phone towers. We have no lines for phones. We have no lines for power. Probably.
We're just gonna have to take one guy with, like, a spool of wire, like fucking, what you call it? Uh, that game. You know what I'm talking about.
The
Uh
where you take the cans and talking to cans that have two that are like tethered together by rope or
That's
string.
not what I was thinking of. I was thinking Death Stranding, where we're just gonna have to take a
Oh,
spool of wire and just like load it on some dude's back, and he's just gonna have to run around the
bro.
country, just like draping wire everywhere.
Death Stranding, yeah,
Uh,
that's where we're at now. We're now at a Death Stranding moment where you got it. Some dude's just walking across the nation, setting up beacons and shit.
yeah,
That'd be dope. That'd be
that
cool.
would be dope.
That'd be dope.
Uh,
Be like, holy shit, it's the communications guy. He's
so
made
we're
it.
gonna we're gonna lose phones immediately, but eventually we'll get them back.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's gonna take a few years at least, but eventually we'll get them back.
Yeah. I mean, because realistically, if you have half the population, well, the thing is, you can't cooperate on this effort. So multiple people would have to have the idea to like start this project in different areas if you wanted it to like get done in a reasonable amount of time.
That's true. One guy would just have to be like, "I'm gonna take this wire and start running across the country with it, and just hope good things happen. Hope everybody else gets it."
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Mhm.
But I think eventually you would get it set back up, and it
Yeah,
wouldn't be owned by anyone. But it would exist.
yeah.
Um,
The internet too, because there are enough people who understand enough about networking. Like in any decently sized city, there are a few people who understand enough about networking and setting up networks that if we could rerun the wire, like a primitive version of the internet would get set back up.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the things that exist now outside of vehicles would come back into existence in small privately owned ways. I think you would have a lot more like small networks linked together, which is really what the internet
Yeah,
and the
that's
network
what the internet is.
is, but it wouldn't be Comcast owning half of a nation, right?
Yeah, you're also not gonna have Google, like, because there
No.
can't be some gigantic, like, warehouse of servers that's crawling the internet and, like so, basically what we're gonna have is, like, the Tor network. We're just gonna have the Tor network,
Yeah.
basically, is what's the internet is just gonna become that,
Yeah.
pretty much. So,
It would be harder to keep restricted and keep certain things off of it.
yeah, it's just gonna be the early days of the internet.
Yes, forever.
Oh, that's another thing, law enforcement? Are we just back to, like, every town has a sheriff and a deputy and a jailer?
Well, do are is like a statewide police force a corporation?
I guess not.
Yeah, I don't think the police force is a corporation.
Yeah, it's a public service, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think that changes.
Do educational institutions just start filling the role that corporations had?
Oh my god, that's a whole topic. What what if public education facilities were corporations?
Well, they basically are as it is.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, there's not that much difference between a public educate like a there's not that much difference between a state college or especially not a private college and a corporation because they still have donors. They
yeah.
still have it's not that much different.
Well, if you start talking about the manufacturing of goods and services,
Mhm.
like if, for example, a private college or even a public college that was large enough was had factories on campus and let's did something like that Google does
Right.
and was a hub for servers and stuff. But every college was like that. Like there's a college that basically is Walmart, and there's a college that basically is Google.
Yeah.
Like I
You would
that
have to frame it all as research somehow, though, right?
I think you get into some dark territory when education and the corporations are one entity. I think you get into some real wild territory there.
I mean, that's basically Fallout, right? That's the world of Fallout, I think. I think there's like there's that sort of thing. It's not explored in depth though, but I think like Vault Tech,
Hmm.
like it's going to be that sort of thing, right? Where there's like educations become more corporate, educational institutions become more corporate, like, and then like people are just going to be young minds will just become manufactured clones, basically.
Yeah,
Everybody's
yeah.
gonna go into this system. You're gonna pick a corporation to go to school for, and they're just gonna turn you into just a soulless automaton whose only purpose is to make this thing function and sell this good.
So yeah, realistically, that's one of the paths is that the education system takes over for corporations, and then I guess the other path is that everything just stays individually or small business owned, and it's kind of like, I guess, cooperation
Right.
among small businesses to not expand to the point that they become a corporation, and they work together but they're still separate entities.
I think I think research institutions and educational institutions becoming more corporate like and ending up providing goods and services to most of the rest of the population is definitely what would happen.
I
That's
think that's
of
more
those two
realistic.
situations, that's
Yeah,
way more
it's
likely.
way more real. Yeah, that is way more likely. um oh man, I think that's like a whole topic in of itself.
What if Google was replaced by Harvard? Like,
Oh my god.
what would happen?
Oh my god. Well,
Oof,
maybe that's what we dive into next time.
maybe. Yeah, I want to talk about a hypothetical world where instead of going to college at like some like fine arts institution or whatever kids do after high school, instead they just basically pick a corporation because that's what the world is now.
Oh my god, yes,
That would be so much
that's
fun.
the next
I want to
topic.
design a curriculum and like that's definitely for sure.
That's definitely
Uh,
it. And if you want to hear that topic, you should definitely join us next time on Unplanned Podnancy.
yeah, where we're gonna do a planned episode because now we know what we want to talk about. So, yes, join us
uh,
on the next episode of Planned Unplanned Podnancy.
there we go. I'm Chris.
I'm Matt.
And thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye.